Hi there, my name is Dennis Herrera, and after a very long day for rearranging everything around the house, rewiring cables, changing setups, painting, running errands, and after a very long day, I am very tired. But I decided to make this next podcast with paint on my shirt, some cleaning supplies on my desk, and even some painter's tape. This is going to be an actual very sensitive subject for many, but it has to be done. Welcome to the Dennis Herrera Show.
Hello, guys, and welcome back to my channel. I thank you so much for coming in to visit. I actually wanted to talk about a couple of things, and I'm going to be reading out of this book right here. This is called the We the People article. This is the Citizens Almanac. And this is what I study before I became an American citizen. And I find it very interesting. It gives you some information about certain things like presidents and things like that. But it gives you a very quick overview, which actually aligns with what I actually learned in school. Now, my education when it comes to history has been always high school level education. Any type of history that I have learned after that has all been just books that I read and that I try to catch up on information. Like, for example, when I was in high school, we had a book called American History, and I went and bought the book so that I can continue studying it and try to understand better where our American history stands and where it comes from. I also have read this book called Barbary Wars. I'm not sure if you can see that there, but I have just books that I feel are important to what I want to learn. Now, I believe that reading is important, but I also think that you should want to find out what you are actually interested on reading. And so, with that being said, I also found an old Call of Duty game, my favorite Call of Duty game. And it's interesting. I know it's just a game, but they put some of our history wars in there, and it starts with the war where we were trying to take back France for the French from Germany. But anyway, I wanted to make this video because I hear a lot of Black Americans. I know education, and not to offend anybody, because I went to school here with a lot of great Black people, and some were really bad. I will say that I saw there was a little bit of racism on some of the Black people that I went to school with, but I never thought anything of it because in Honduras, we don't have that. At least we didn't back then. I think nowadays we are starting to hear some of the rhetoric that racism was alive in Honduras. And I'm like, what? What? I never heard of this. And, we were enslaved Indians. Our Indian heritage is we have Lencas, which is our hero Indian, the Indian Lempira, which is what the coin is labeled after. And we had some Mayan descent. The area where my mother comes from is from that part where the Mayans were. And so I hear the American history is pretty similar, except you have the British versus natives, and we have Spaniards versus natives, and along the way there, the Africans, the slaves, were also involved. So there was a lot of Africans that escaped, slavery, and all the Caribbean, Cuba, probably Jamaica, right? You have all these countries that have a lot of Black people from Africa, and they all have their own story to tell. Now, I feel like the people that fail to become better people are those that set themselves in a mindset of, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Yes, it was very horrible, horrific. And I understand. I will tell you, we in Honduras back then, we were raised to be so patriotic, very patriotic to our nation. And we had an oath. And I think I might have made a video about this before, but we had an oath that said in very brief words, it says, we swear an oath to our nation to hold, to respect, honor, and we will make other people here respect it and honor it. And anybody does not abide by this rules, we will call him a traitor. And everybody knows the punishment for traitors is death, right? That's pretty basic in a lot of cultures. Now, when I learned my history, oh my gosh, guys, it it hurt my feelings. I've always been very, very deep cultural. I don't know why, very deep in touch with nature. I was more attractive to my native side than I was to my mixed, Spanish, dark skin heritage. But what's interesting is, and if you have any questions, I can tell you that my father was African descent. I would tell you the hair will tell you that he was mixed, but I'm not claiming that. I would just say that I'm a Honduran because this is what our nationality, and this is how we label everybody, whether you're black, Asian, light skin like I am. There's some parts of me that are dark brown, and I'm proud of those. But it's we never learned racism, and I mean maybe they might have been some prejudice. There might be some prejudice with everybody, but here, black people, for some reason, they are so focused in the pain. And when I was in third grade, I was learning how the Spaniards took our gold, our silver, our valuables per se. We were so ignorant back then, we just want to live off the land, and we don't care about making big buildings except pyramids, temples, not pyramids, temples. I don't know what you would call those because they're not exact pyramids, but temples, and for the most part, we had a really, really dark Indian culture in some parts of Honduras. Is very, very, very dark. So we are glad that has, overcome in our history, has been overcome with goodness. And we had let go of all the witchcraft and all this evil worshiping that our natives were doing back then. But I hated Spaniards. I was so mad. I was so angry about Spaniards because they raped our women. They took our gold. Of course, now today we know this, right? We know what valuables are. But I was so afraid learning about it. And we get all the Spaniard Catholics coming over and say love and peace and Christ loves you. And I was just like, you know what? F those people. Get out of my country. And oh man, it was a lot of anger. But then I thank God because in that moment of anger and rage, I don't know for how long I held on to that, but it wasn't more than third grade. I can tell you that. I started thinking, well, we're not slaves anymore. I'd never been a slave. My mother was not a slave. My father was not a slave. My grandfather was not a slave. And so I started thinking about this, and I'm just like, wait, why am I upset? Yes, I get it. There was some bad stuff that happened back then. Well, am I supposed to be mad at my native culture because they killed us? They sacrificed us to an idol rock? To a false god because the crops were bad that would sacrifice us? Our own people were killing us. Witchcraft. Satanist. That stuff is in there. And I'm glad that we're not in those times. So I'm very happy to say that I was able to see a difference in how, how we are today. And so I tell you a little bit of my history, and maybe I will say more as I make more blogs, right, or more videos. But I tell you my history because everybody thinks that here in America, oh, the blacks had it the worst. And well, I beg to differ. The Irish were also slaves. Remember that, and they had it the worst. And then the Chinese were also slaves, and they had it the worst. And then the white men were slaves, and they had it the worst. Everybody thinks that. But my point here is, I was able to think for myself, and I thought, hey, I speak Spanish. Yeah, you know what? I don't speak Mayan. I don't speak a dialect language from our native Indians. But who cares? Nobody speaks that language anymore. What do I care about the language? What I care about is, what does my heart carry? Do I carry a culture of love, peace, and acceptance? And do I assimilate in the area where I'm at? Now, the same patriotism that I was taught in Honduras for my country, I still have. And I love Honduras. I love the people. I really do. The bad ones make me mad, but I still love them. There is something special that when I came here to the United States, around 14 and a half years old, I experienced something, uh, racism. And it wasn't from white people, it was from black people. I got jumped by three guys that were in the mid 20s when I was 14 years old. They beat me so bad, they were punching me against this wall by the US Bank in downtown Everett. I had bumps all over my head. My leg was so swollen, I couldn't see out of one eye. Black people. I got jumped again by 5 black people. Black dudes, maybe they were on drugs. Every time that I have been discriminated against in this country has been black people. Now, this shocks me because we don't see that in Honduras. And I didn't know that existed. And then the one time that I felt some sort of racism from white people, I was working at this a warehouse, and there was a couple, the white couple, that were stealing from the company. And, everybody liked me, at work. I was a hard worker. I always been a hard worker. Everybody liked me at work. And, we had a manager substitute come from another store. And I came in and I saw this Spanish lady, right? She wasn't Mexican. She was from South America. And she was trying to find something, but she didn't know how to ask in English. She didn't speak English. And I was like, whoa, don't worry. I speak English. I speak Spanish. And I started speaking Spanish. And I kid you not, everybody in that store was working. And the moment that I started speaking Spanish, they probably thought I was German, American, Russian, whatever the hell they think I look like. They stopped working. And I looked around and they were staring at me. And not like, oh, hey, good job. You're helping some. No. Holy crap. It's a Mexican we have in this store. That look. Well, a couple of days later, they went to the substitute manager. I got a job at this company because of a friend of mine that I went to school with in high school. His father was very nice and gave me the job. I was still in high school when I got this job, just about to graduate. And the manager calls me in, the substitute manager calls me in to the office, and he says, are you stealing? And I said, oh, hey. I said, no. I said, I don't steal, not even a penny. I can be starving. I won't steal no food. I will steal no money. My mother taught me better. And he said to me, well, they said that you're stealing from us, so you're fired. And I said, wait, what do you mean? Well, I came back when the manager came back from the store, and I tried to talk to him. And I said, they said that I was stealing, but I swear to you, I promise you, I was not stealing. I said, that's not in my blood. That's not in my genes. That is not how I was raised. And I said, and I appreciate you giving me this job. I really love working here for you. And you know that I do a good job. He says, yeah, but I have witnesses saying that you were stealing. Now, it turns out, a few months later, I actually came to this warehouse to buy something because I needed, when I was working for as a maintenance for an apartment community. I got another job. And I came back maybe 4 or 5 months later. There was a lady there. She was always really nice to me. Yes, she was white. And she was always very nice to me. And I asked her, I was like, hey, so is so-and-so still working here? And she goes, oh, wait a minute. I got something to tell you. And I said, well, what's going on? He said, well, I know they fired you because they said that you were stealing. Well, one day they messed up. and they were caught in camera going to the back of the truck and putting stuff under the tarp, and they were the ones stealing. And I said, I had a feeling, but I didn't want to be that guy, you know. Plus, I never seen him do it, so I never said anything. But there you go. There's a form of racism that I have experienced. It might have not been the worst, but to accuse me of being a thief because I'm Hispanic, that was pretty huge. So the moral that I'm trying to get into this story is there's a lot more stories that I'm going to tell you guys, because I feel that this making new podcast like scenarios here, I'm going to just go ahead and tell you a lot of stories about my life and growing up, but I will also be doing my research with videos, trying to find out the truth, trying to keep up to date, because the more I stay up to date, the clearer I see how the people are being manipulated or how the people are actually being helped. So there is that. So my advice or my message to my beautiful black people, my beautiful American people here, and even those Africans that are visiting or are now planning to stay here, let me tell you, please, you have to respect the people in this country. You have to love this country. I know the history in this country. And I know that there's been black slavery. And the black slaves from the North were not treated the same way as the black slaves of the South. And because the black slaves of the North were treated better, they were called Uncle Toms. And the black slaves of the South hated them, even though they were black. They hated them. So, this is your people. There's a lot of Mexicans kicked out of the United States for reasons. There's more to history, and it's not just because the white people came over. It's not the white people that took over the land of the natives. No, the natives were killing themselves, and somebody stronger came and put them in their place. Now, they are actually protected in Indian reservations. And they have the full support of the military of the United States because they live in this country. So they have gathered some protection. And what do? Instead of trying to make their culture even richer? I won't make any comments on that right now, but it's not good. But for the black people that are 14 to 15% minority in this country, let me tell you something. Black people don't love you as much as white people love you. You know how I know? It wasn't black people that freed you. There was black people that talk and strikes and activism and civil rights movement, but it wasn't the blacks that freed you. It wasn't the blacks that died for you. It was the white people. So when you talk about reparations, it pisses me off because I wasn't here. And if I want to buy a house, I got to pay you reparations? F that. I don't think so, homie. What have you done for me? Nothing. So what I say is if you come to me as an American, my respect. I'm honored to be called your brother since as an American citizen. I really am. I've seen a lot of good things and a lot of bad things in our culture here in the United States. And I think that black people need to stop playing the victim. And I know this is going to be difficult to hear, and it's going to be very difficult to do. But, oh my goodness. Listen, my first two kids, they're black. They're half black. The first woman that I fell in love with was a black woman. And I'm not going to say that all black women are bad, but for some reason, she chose welfare over us being married and raising our kids together. Really broke my heart. And I work 2 jobs, and I didn't have enough time. I get it. I didn't have enough time to spend with her. But I was buying the milk, $16 a can, 2 cans a week this little boy used to drink. I bought him all his diapers. There was no welfare from me. I worked double shift, and not 2 jobs, double shift. And I did that for 2 years. I bought him his first his crib, his first bed. I bought him all his clothes. I bought him all his food. In the meantime, the mother was getting food stamps, was getting medical, and was getting housing support or cash. And it was tough, man. Uh, I remember talking to a social worker, and if she had said to the social worker that I was paying for everything, she would have been off welfare because I was taking care of my son. Even though we didn't live together, she wanted to live with her sister. I was paying for everything for my son. And I see how he was raised. So I tell you this because she was lazy, she was dirty, and I can't believe at a young age I just didn't see that. I didn't see it. But you know what? Even though that would have been the case, I wouldn't care because I was in love with her. I made my kid with love. And I got an apartment for 2 bedrooms so that we can have for our son and for us. And she was pregnant with my daughter. I was an idiot. I was very responsible, and then I started. My mind changed, and I started being more responsible. But what do I tell you this for? I'm going somewhere with this. I tell you this because I know the black culture as well. Whenever I go pick them up, they live in the ghetto in Seattle, West Seattle. No, wait, West, Southeast Seattle. Ghetto apartments, dirty, just dirty. You smell marijuana everywhere. You see the crazy ladies and the guys over there cussing at each other with a joint on their ear, and the ladies with the curl whatever things on their hair, just ghetto. And that's not black people. That's just ghetto people. And this is where my kids were being raised. Housing, subsidized housing, right? Affordable housing. Now, what happened? They were taking up to 40% of my income to give to her. And she had cash. She had a roof over her head over her kids. Well, I'm thankful because they're still my kids. But she had medical. I didn't. She had food stamps. I didn't. And I had a really hard time as a young man. And for 22 and a half years, I paid the price for my mistake. And I love my children, but the worst price that I paid is that my kids were raised ghetto. Marijuana, other drugs. You know, we don't really have a good relationship nowadays, but I love my children. Whenever they come back to me, I am here. My firstborn is the only one that calls me, and we have some sort of communication. But, this is how black people are raised. And anybody that mixes with that type of ghetto people, Hispanics, Asians, eventually they all mix and they live that way. And so the hatred that black people today have, it's because they're raised in that. They're raised without their father. I love my children. My children came out semi-good because of the time they spent with me, because I would discipline them. But not only would I discipline them, I gave them love and attention. And I showed them a way to be responsible in their life. It's okay, sweetheart. And so when I see black people being afraid and always playing, my daughter was coming in, always playing the racist victimhood card, the white man doesn't keep you down. The only reason the white man keeps you down is because they give you everything and it makes you lazy. That's the only thing the white man is doing. Now you guys want to have your own black bank. You want to have your own black school. Now you want to have your own black businesses. You have your own black national anthem. What the hell is a black national anthem? For Pete's sakes, why do you see yourselves so little? Why can't you just be Americans and be equal like everybody else? Why do you hate yourselves so much? I get to my point. I love black people, but the bad side of the black people, you guys that are crazy out there, a lot of black people, your own people, are getting tired of your victimhood. You're oppressed. I see professional athletes. I see people in Congress and Senate. Man, we even had a black president, a vice president. What else do you want. It's not racism. It's you. Jasmine Crockett. Oh my God, she got hired, and I don't know how the hell she's a ranking member, but she got hired by her own lips. She said, because I am black. Guys, we got to change that. Let me tell you what the white people have done and how much they love everybody that comes to this country, but specifically black people, because we have the most in common in this United States of America. And it was on page 74. If you don't have this book, I encourage you to get it. I know, I'm losing my sight. I'm so pissed off at Trump because he doesn't use glasses. I do. Especially when my eyes get tired. All right, page 74. This is called the excerpts in this book. You probably won't be able to see it there. If I can zoom in and see it, I will try to do that. But I want to read this to you guys. And hopefully, guys, I hope that you stop seeing your black people as minority, inferior to white. White supremacy doesn't exist. Okay, it doesn't. Unless you make yourself inferior, then you automatically make everybody else supreme above you. But you're not. You're equal to any American. I don't care what shade of skin you are. I am not intimidated by skin color. I'm intimidated by guns. But I own a gun as well, and I will self-defense myself. But I will gladly set my life aside to protect every single one of the Americans in this country. And that includes any shade of color. And I hope that you watching this feel the same way. I am so convicted about this. Maybe one day I'll, if I get the funds, because I work full time, but if I can save up some funds, I'll probably make a public speech and hopefully somebody's listening to out there. But watch what it says right here. And hopefully I can read it just right for you. It says, we come then to the question presented. Does segregation of children in public schools solely on the basis of race, even though the physical facilities and other tangible factors may be equal, deprive the children of the minority group of equal educational opportunities? We believe that it does. To separate them from others of similar age and qualifications solely because of their race generates a feeling of inferiority as to their status in the community that may affect their heart and minds in a way unlikely ever to be undone. Wow, that's powerful. Let me read this again. To separate them from others of similar age and qualifications solely because of their race generates a feeling of inferiority. This is why a lot of people think that white supremacy exists. As to their status in the community that may affect their heart and minds in a way unlikely ever to be undone. We conclude that in the field of public education, the doctrine of separate but equal has no place. Separate educational facilities are inherently unequal. What happens when we start separating ourselves by groups, segregating ourselves? You guys, a lot of people fought to be able to use the same bathrooms as white people. There was color bathrooms, there was white bathrooms. There was places where black people were not allowed. Why are you trying to segregate yourself again after so many wise leaders fought against that? I'm going to say this. Some people say that racism, it's in your genes. White people are automatically racist because they're white. I don't believe that. And I don't believe that you are the black people from South Africa that are out there being as racist as really Adolf Hitler. Their hate for white people, it is ridiculous. And some of the politicians that are black in America have the same hate for white people, and they only talk to them and they only help them when they need to get something out of it. You know, and I'm going to finish with this, and hopefully I'm making my point. The beautiful Canon camera that I have has a limit of recording, so it stopped recording. All right, but I wanted to finish up with this. And, you know, Donald Trump had the South African president in the Oval Office. Now, the left wing media say that it was an ambush, and it was a nice ambush. They were right. It was a nice ambush. But here's the thing. I never knew anything about South Africa. I knew there was some fighting, but in all the continent of Africa, you know this is already happening. I mean, Africa is one of the few countries as continents that has hundreds and thousands of slaves. Yes, black slaves. And, you know, nobody talks about it. It's like, it's no big deal. But I was feeling bad. I really was. I was feeling bad for the South African president because he was coming in very humble. He seemed like, you know, a very nice guy. I thought maybe he just wasn't aware of what was going on, you know, with the farmers and the white people over there. You know, some don't want to call it a genocide, but when the whites are, you know, a smaller number of people and they're getting killed, it's kind of like black people doing more than 50% of the crimes here in the United States when only 14% of the black people are the minority group here in America. I hope that makes sense. It's something like that. But, you know, they showed a video, and I've seen these videos before, just so you know, before President Trump puts them on there. I seen the videos, and I thought, somewhere in Africa, you know, whatever. This, like I said, this happens all the time. But no, it was from South Africa, and I didn't know that. And so, man, I was feeling bad for him, and, you know, they ended up laughing at the end and all this stuff, you know, killed the boar, killed the farmer, one shot, one kill. You know, I thought maybe the ignorance, right, of the African president, maybe that was causing him not to know what's going on in his country. And they said that they knew about criminality and all this other stuff, right? But he never really acknowledged what is going on. So I went and did my research. Remember, I told you, I don't read something unless I need to get information that I need. And so I went and learned just what I can gather from books and news and articles and all this stuff. And I found that this president has been a tyrant to the African people. And I'm not just talking about the white people. I'm talking about the black African, native African people. They took land away from them without compensation. At first, they started with paying them some money that later they found out was not even close to what the land was worth. So the poor people saw money. They thought, hey, this is a great deal. I'm going to take this. And then they later found out that there was nothing, that the money that they got was nothing. So what do you do? What do you do? And I'm reading, and then the appropriation, and, you know, they're making all this. I mean, the president, that guy that I was feeling sorry for, is one of the reasons why you saw 100,000 Africans in that full stadium saying, kill the white man, kill the farmer, kill the boer, one shot, one kill. Now I know a lot of white people have bought some land. The government kept the money, and the African natives kicked out of their land. So now they come back and they want their land back. And they chant, and you can hear on the video, right? They chant, we don't need your permission, President. We don't need no president permission. We don't need nobody's permission.
There's nothing this parliament can do with or without you. people are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from no one. We don't care. We can do whatever you want to do.
This issue that Donald Trump fears so much. We offer this question of the land. I don't know what Donald Trump has to do with South African land, because he's never been here. And he must keep his America. We will keep our South Africa. When I meet him, I will tell him. I'll say, you, Donald Trump, you are even worse, because your forebears came to America. They found the indigenous Americans. They wiped them out. They killed nearly all of them. Rine, we are living as a nation, and black and white, we are going to find solutions for our land question. So Donald Trump must leave us alone.
This is our land, and we're going to be whatever we want to be. He's talking about the native land that this president and other corrupted people took away from them. So I don't blame them. But the problem now is that I get to see interviews from other people, and I gather from all the articles that I have read, the history and the news, and you grab a little piece of everything. And the one thing that's missing, of course, is always God, right? The God of peace. They don't have that. But it's not about religion right now. These black Africans, and I'm not going to say all of them, because there's a lot of beautiful black African people that live in small villages that just love tourists. And I'm talking about white people. Anybody that comes and visits them, they are happy to see those people. And for the most part, I think, that those visitors are good to them. So hopefully they are. But I have seen a lot of beautiful African people just treating everybody the same way and sharing their food and sharing their hunting. I've seen documentaries on it. And of course, I know that Africa has a lot of big, beautiful cities. But for the most part, when you go out into the desert, into the what do you call that? Is escaping my mind. But more away from the city, there's no mountains. It's just flat land, and the way that they live there, very, 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 very native. Nothing developed. I wonder how they shower. I don't think they shower. And if they do, it's useless because it's all dirt. It's all oh my gosh, it's all barro. I can't think of the word in English. Remember, I told you when I speak English, I'm translating my Spanish to English all the time. But there's little water, and everything is dirt. Even their houses are made of sticks and mud, and they have a little cooking, little fire pit that they make in there to cook their food. And these Africans that are saying kill white people, they are so racist towards them, and it's all because they're white, they're successful, and they flourish. So not only are they mad that their land was given to them, even though they pay for it, the land was given to them, they got kicked out, and so here we got, and I don't know if this may make sense to you guys, but if any Christian ever watches this video, you'll know what I'm talking about. They have this spirit of Cain. All the hateful Africans, and even those black people that we have here in America, they have the spirit of Cain because he lived with his brother. But when it came time to honor God, to show love, to show respect, to humble themselves, Abel, which was Cain's brother, Adam and Eve's kids, Abel was favored by God because he brought the best of what he had and offered it to God, humbled himself, showed respect, honor, and love to God, the Almighty, the Creator. And Cain was jealous because he saw that Abel was being favored by God and he was doing good, and he was jealous that his job was not as hard as his because Cain worked the land, And that is exactly what is happening right now. This is what Satan is doing to us in today's day. That jealousy, always hating the white man because they are doing something good with their life. Think about it. Why is it that America is so bad? It's so racist. And yet, right now that we're doing big cuts for a lot of, waste, right? Fraud, maybe. But a lot of money is being misused. And so the American people have to pay the price for it. Now it's no longer the white people. Now it's all America, which includes white, black, Asian, Hispanics. A lot of it. A lot of this mix. And the spirit of Cain is what controls these people. And I didn't see it until I watched the president from South Africa express himself about America, and that changed my view of him. So when I put their history, when I put A and B together, they're both guilty. But the most shameful is the president. That innocent South African president that I thought was a nice, humble man. He wants businesses to come over to South Africa, but he wants 30% of every business that goes over there. What do you think is going to happen when he doesn't want them? He has a lot of appropriation. He can give a business, he can give a land to whoever he wants. Any investment that comes in there, gone. And who gets the benefit? He does. Not his people. He does. And his people, but not the beautiful African people of Africa that unfortunately they have been corrupted with an evil spirit. And I hope that they break that in Jesus' name. I really believe that. So to all my African Americans and the Black American brothers that I have here, including my children, I'll just tell you, let go of the hate, of all the bad stuff that's happened in the past. Learn from it. And please, I pray to God that He enlightens you so that you can see that loving and forgiving is a lot better than hating and trying to be vengeful for something that you didn't even have anything to do with to begin with. If you've been watching this long, thank you so much. Until next time, you all be blessed. Peace.